How's it going? Gon here. Note to self. Don't ever air scat smut on public television. Apparently the FCC weren't too happy about it, and this humble channel is about to go up in flames. But that's the thing. I wasn't the first one. So I'll dedicate these last moments to some guy named Max.
Channel shutdowns. My favorite hobby. Everyone had that TV channel you randomly tuned in on Thursday nights until it vanished without trace. Or maybe it was your favorite channel that met that same fate, and believe me, that's gotta be one of the saddest things to ever experience. If you're below the age of 106, I feel bad for those guys. Hey, the TV realm can be tough. You have to maintain relevancy, attract new viewers with your programming, and air King of the Hill 24/7, just like life. But not everybody's lucky, and some channels end up shutting down for a couple of reasons. Low viewership, budget problems, Disney. These are the channels that time forgot. Some were great and some were, well, bad. So let's start with the f***ing mistake. G4 TV was America's first TV channel for gamers. Nice. It launched on April 24th, 2002 with the main goal of competing with Tech TV, which had a similar concept, airing tech-related shows, including video game content. But G4 was all about gaming, and they wanted you to know that since the start. The channel's first week consisted of a week-long series of Pong matches. Yeah, Pong. G4 was all about video games. In the early days you had game reviews, walkthroughs, game shows, and pretty cool bumpers. Is that Jeff Keighley? Yup, our boy Jeff was a co-host on the G4TV.com show, and he looks young?
No, this can't be.
G4 TV's memo was TV for gamers, but as we'll see later on, that wouldn't last long. See, G4 had an audience, but not big enough to sustain it, and it wasn't attracting advertisers. So, only 2 years later, it was announced that G4 would merge with Tech TV, forming G4 Tech TV. What a mouthful. But for the dismay of Tech TV fans, the Tech TV name was dropped the following year. Now this is where G4 became what we all remember, aka bad. We had some channel staples like Attack of the Show and X-Play, but they began shifting over to non-gaming content. According to Neil Tiles, the president of G4 at the time, guys like to play games, but not necessarily watch a bunch of shows with games on the screen. So let's air heroes 24/7. TV dramas and game shows became the norm, while original shows were being pushed to the side, which doesn't make any sense. But hey, it's G4 we're talking about. G4 was struggling with its identity. They were departing from their original concept and becoming something generic. Should we air X-Play or American Ninja Warrior? The answer is none, just end already. Around 2012, various mainstay members left G4 and the writing was on the wall. G4 TV was ending. And so it happened. On December 31st, 2014, G4 aired its last show, being the very first episode of X-Play. And then it was followed with the final game of Pong, a callback to its beginning. Progressively, the screen became smaller until you could no longer see it. G4 was over. Until they threatened to make a return in 2021. On July 2020, it was announced that G4 TV would make its triumphant return the following year, and that Attack of the Show and X-Play would also be brought back. This was a weird announcement. Sure, video games were more mainstream than in the 2000s, but on the other hand, streaming already established itself as the cable TV killer, and I think it was a little too late to revive G4. But it launched anyways on November 2021. Great. I remember watching the relaunch livestream they were doing on YouTube, and honestly, I don't know why I watched it. I didn't even know what G4 was, but it randomly popped into my feed for some reason. This time around, G4 went all in with gaming content, just like the early days. And they also brought back some original staff members and some new faces, which partially caused its downfall. On October 2022, not even a year after its relaunch, it was announced that G4 TV would be shutting down. Again, this was due to low viewership, poor management, budget problems, and failing to compete with internet content creators. Did they check the whole list? Some bring up Frost's meltdown as the main reason the G4 TV revival failed. To give some context, one of the co-hosts of X-Play had a meltdown mid-show about sexism in the gaming industry, in which he ended the speech saying, "If you don't like it, don't watch it." And some people took that personally. I mean, this was certainly a contributing factor to G4's downfall, but the channel was backfiring anyways. This just added fuel to the fire. And so G4 was over once again, with the final image showing a game of Pong poorly drawn onto someone's forehead with the text, "Thanks for watching." Well, thanks for giving a f*** about Mirror's Edge and coming back for us when no one gave a piss. Moving over from gaming channels, let's talk about anime channels, cause I never get the chance to. And the first one we have today is Locomotion. If you're from Latin America, Spain or Portugal, you may remember this channel. Or maybe not, it shut down over 20 years ago. Locomotion launched on November 1st, 1996 with a simple premise. Animation wasn't just for kids. 90-year-olds can also enjoy Cool McCool, and that's okay. Locomotion started off as just another cartoon channel, but more focused on classic shows from the 60s and 70s like Flash Gordon, Popeye, and Betty Boop. But we also had ones from the 80s like G.I. Joe, TMNT, and She-Ra. I normally don't talk about bumpers or station IDs, but the early Locomotion bumpers were so creative and charming. But I can see some of these being too scary for kids, which makes them even better. Locomotion IDs were like the old MTV bumpers, but honestly, these were so much better and filled with identity. And they also had Loco! Yeah, looking at the old Locomotion logo, you can easily notice that it resembles a face, and so it became their mascot, and he made some appearances on the channel announcing what show was coming next. Locomotion also had a variety of blocks, even more than Cartoon Network. You had 80s TV dedicated to 80s cartoons, Retromotion for the 20s and 30s shows, and Locotomia for experimental short animations. Locomotion was the perfect place for animation fans, young and old. But in the following years, they began prioritizing more adult animation, and it's all thanks to South Park. Everyone knows South Park, right? Well, it premiered on Locomotion in 1998 and it blew up in Latin America. If I'm not mistaken, this was the first time South Park was available on those countries, and it definitely explains its success. And in the following year, Neon Genesis Evangelion premiered, and it marked a new era of Locomotion. In 1999, the channel had its first rebrand, changing its logo to a more simplified icon with Loco silhouette. On the surface, it looks shit, but it gave us some cool-ass bumpers with some neat tech visuals. Hey, this right here is my jam and gave Locomotion a more rough and experimental vibe. The only downside was the retiring of Loco. After the rebrand, it was never seen again, unfortunately. So after South Park's and Evangelion success, they began pushing out adult cartoons and anime rather than classic animation. We got Ren and Stimpy, Duckman, The Critic, Dr. Katz, and on the anime side, Cowboy Bebop, Serial Experiments Lane, and movies like Akira and The Ghost in the Shell. Everything was going great, until they revamped the bumpers once again. What was that for? Sure, they look nice and unique, but it was perfect the way it was. Now that was Locomotion's prime, and I never watched the channel. It was all going A-okay. Until it shut down in Spain and Portugal in 2003.
What did we do wrong?
Now things were starting to become a little shaky. In 2004, Locomotion had its last rebrand, now fully embracing its anime side and changing its name to Locomotion Anime Station. The channel's identity became boring as hell and it fully consisted of anime programming with some adult cartoons here and there. Hey, I love anime and if I grew up during this era, I would have loved this channel. But going far from your original concept of animation for all ages is not exactly a beautiful sight to see. And it all came to a halt when Sony Pictures Television acquired Locomotion and changed its name to Animax, which you've probably heard about. But before the rebrand, they aired a small video showing the transition from Locomotion to Animax, and they brutally murdered Loco. Well, anyways, after 9 years of being on air, Locomotion was dead, and it sucks. Locomotion was such a great channel with an awesome catalog, and even if I was born a little too late to experience it, I hope the people that did are having a fantastic night.
You know, hemispheres and such.
Let's talk about Animax, cause I actually remember this one. Animax is a Japanese channel dedicated to broadcasting anime 24/7. Now that's insanely good. The channel is available in a variety of countries, primarily from Asia. A while ago, Animax was available in Europe and Latin America, but it has since shut down during the 2010s. I'm gonna be focusing more on the Latin American and Portuguese versions of Animax, since they share a similar story and there's no way I could talk about Animax Germany. Animax Portugal originally launched as a block on the channel AXN with the name Zona Animax or Animax Zone in 2007, but only a few months later, it became an independent network. Animax was just that, anime from dusk till dawn, and it was great! It had Naruto, Death Note, Inuyasha, Hunter x Hunter, Detective Conan, Lupin the Third, Black Lagoon, the classics, some really good shows. I don't have many memories of Animax, but I do remember watching Crayon Shin-chan back in the day. It was a long time ago and it was possibly near the channel's end. Yeah, so, in 2010, the channel suffered one of the worst rebrands in TV history, going completely against its main appeal. They had the brilliant idea of removing several anime from its programming and replacing them with live-action shows. What do you do exactly? After this change, you could watch Nana and The Big Bang Theory on the same place. It sounds better than it actually is. People did not like this rebrand. What's the point of Animax if half of your shows aren't even animated? Now, they probably made this change because of low ratings. Anime wasn't as mainstream as it is today, and making a channel that only airs anime sounds like a cool idea, but kinda risky. The rebrand only made things worse. Longtime viewers stopped tuning in, and new viewers were few and far between. It just wasn't working anymore, and Animax Latin America shut down on May 1st, 2011, and was replaced by Sony Spin, a channel targeted at female audiences and had nothing to do with anime. A similar thing happened with Animax Portugal. It shut down shortly after on May 9th, 2011, and was replaced with AXN Black, which was focused on action and crime shows. I think Animax's main flaw was releasing a little too early. If streaming didn't exist and Animax released today, it would thrive. Anime culture has grown a lot in the past decade, and Animax could have worked, but I think it was destined to fail. This next one is pretty interesting. Imagine there was an adult-oriented version of Cartoon Network. Right. You don't need to imagine. The UK had one, cause of course they did. In 2002, Turner Broadcasting System Europe released a new channel exclusively in the UK and Ireland, and it was called CNX, short for Cartoon Network Extreme. Genuinely, how do you f this up? CNX was aimed at the male audience, the daytime programming was aimed at older kids and teens, while the evening was for the adults. CNX primarily aired anime and cartoons, with some live-action shows thrown in the middle. You had Batman Beyond, Cowboy Bebop, Dragon Ball Z, Samurai Jack, The Bragg Show, and The Shield, to name a few. CNX had a pretty unique branding, and it's a shame it never left the UK. Unfortunately, CNX was very short-lived, lasting only 1 year before being replaced by... Huh? So, I forgot to mention that CNX had a daytime blog called Toonami. The rebrand to Toonami happened on September 8, 2003, and all adult programming was removed. Toonami started out similarly to its American counterpart, with the host Tom appearing during commercial breaks and its focus on anime and action cartoons. Though in 2006, Toonami had a major rebrand. Tom was replaced with his weird blobs, and overall the channel became more childish and shittier. They also began leaning more on live-action shows, which, was a mistake. And so on May 2007, Toonami would cease operations and be replaced with Cartoon Network 2. So lesson learned, kids, never add live-action shows to your anime channels, or you'll end up like Mr. Typo right here. I do love some slime, even better if it's orange. Nickelodeon needs absolutely no introduction. If you grew up during the 90s, 2000s, or even the 2010s, you've surely seen at least one Nick show. But over in Japan, Nick had a strange and short run. Nick Japan launched on November 15, 1998, and it wasn't much different from the American version. Same shows, same everything. But the most intriguing part about Nick Japan is its shutdown, or in this case, shutdowns. Due to declining viewership, Viacom had no choice but to cut Nickelodeon Japan off the air on September 30, 2009, mere days after the rebrand in the US. Now, what's so interesting about this? Which one is the real shutdown? If you go on YouTube and search for Nickelodeon Japan shutdown, you'll be met with a bunch of videos portraying different shutdowns. Let's focus on these three, cause these seem to be the most prominent and believable, though two of them sound kinda bullshit. The first one shows a SpongeBob bumper until it abruptly turns into static and analog color bars. I don't believe this is the real shutdown. Same could be said about the second video. It begins with the bumper and then the screen turns into black with the Nickelodeon logo on the corner, accompanied with static until it transitions to, again, analog color bars. And then we have the third one, which starts with the credits of an animated short called Bull and Red, and it's followed by a bumper with a green dinosaur until it suddenly switches to a black screen with a message, "This channel doesn't exist anymore," or "Channel unavailable." This one sounds more believable, and in line with some descriptions online, but there's a chance that all of these are real. Nick Japan was available on a variety of cable providers, and some of them took the channel off air earlier than others. According to the Lost Media Wiki, the first video with SpongeBob was from the provider Hikari One, and the third one from Sky Perfect TV, and the second video, well, feel free to take a guess, cause nobody knows. This whole thing surrounding Nick Japan is a rabbit hole, and all I did was summarize a part of it, cause I have a life outside of Nick Japan and I want to play Spore. Anyways, let's talk about Nick Japan. Nickelodeon Japan made a brief comeback in 2018, though this time being digital. It didn't last very long, and by 2022, it was dead once again. This might sound like a personal question, but what's your favorite number?
61.
Well, fuck you, here's Channel 19. Canal 19, or Channel 19, was a TV channel from El Salvador that aired Nickelodeon shows. Yup, this was their version of Nick. Channel 19 launched in 1995 as a women's network with female-centric programming. But that would change on January 1999 when the owner of Channel 19, Grupo Megavision, struck a deal with Viacom to air Nickelodeon and MTV programming on their network. And thus, El Salvador's Nickelodeon was born. Nick programming by the day and MTV programming by the night. And good luck finding videos of this abomination. We have few pieces of Channel 19 and, I gotta tell ya, this bumpers ran on a shoestring budget. What the f*** is this? Yeah, they clearly didn't put a lot of effort into their bumpers, since they used this logo animation in every bumper I could find. Everything was going great, El Salvador had their own Nickelodeon, and the people behind the channel seemed to enjoy their work. But that was until May 31st, 2012, when Viacom accused Grupo Megavision of thwarting the potential of Nickelodeon Latin America's carriage to cable companies in El Salvador, and ordered Grupo Megavision to cease all Nick programming from Channel 19. This upset a lot of people and also hit the staff by surprise, but there was nothing they could do. So on that night at 11 PM, Channel 19 ceased its operations with a heartfelt message. I mean, it looks like it was made on Windows Movie Maker and they're using the Big Time Rush song Worldwide on the background, but you can feel the love that was put into it. They clearly didn't have the skill, but I weirdly appreciate it. And who the fuck am I? This message basically translates to, hey, these last 14 years were great, we had lots of laughs, but unfortunately, we gotta go, and you all will forever be in our hearts. This is the most effort I've seen in a channel shutdown. Channel 19 was then rebranded to Mega Noticias and became El Salvador's first news channel. Later in 2022, they changed their name back to Channel 19, but the Nickelodeon programming was nowhere to be seen. The last channel I'll discuss today is yet another Nickelodeon channel. Wait, this isn't a Nick channel? It's literally called Nick. What are you on about? Folks, this is no doubt one of the weirdest channels in TV history. This shouldn't even exist in the first place. Nick was an Argentinian TV station created by a company called Primer, which is now known as AMC Networks International Latin America. Nick came out in 1994 and aired classic Warner Bros. Cartoons and some Nicktoons like Ren and Stimpy and the Rugrats. But get this channel had no relation with Viacom nor Nickelodeon. You're telling me the Nick channel with Nick shows doesn't have anything to do with Nick? Yeah, Viacom probably licensed the shows to Argentinian Nick, but I've heard somewhere that Nick aired these shows without a license, which is, illegal. I don't believe this, since Primer was a major cable operator in Argentina during that time, and they probably just licensed all their content from Viacom and Warner, though I wouldn't rule out potential tomfoolery. Nick only lasted a year, shutting down in 1995 in favor of Magic Club, another children's network. Argentinian Nick is so obscure that the only thing we had until 2020 was the logo and the flyer. And I remember people thinking it was a hoax that no such channel ever existed. But it definitely did, and you can find 18 seconds worth of bumpers on YouTube. And I have to agree, these give a bootleggy feel, and Primer definitely stole shit. I'd love to see more stuff of Bootleg Nick, though for the time being, it's still a big mystery with tons of lost content. TV networks don't last forever, so honestly, you better make the most of it while they're still around and before they begin alienating their audience with shows they shouldn't even be airing in the first place.
It's kinda sad in a way. Imagine if your favorite TV channel also got taken over by live-action shows. Now that is something I wouldn't wish to my worst enemy.
Young Sheldon coming up next.